Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Tarot is Ridiculous. And of course, I am doing a small celebration of Pride Month here on Tarot is Ridiculous. And I'm having some of my favorite queer creators, readers, and writers right here on the podcast because, in all honesty, without us queeros, I'm not quite sure how much tarot you'd actually have. Now, that might be a bold, controversial statement, but I do think it's true. And one of the creators I have on today is not just a tarot deck creator. She is an author who just published her very first book on magic and witchcraft, which is so exciting. Plus, she is a poet. Amanda, I think you have it all. Thank you so much for sharing your talent and gifts with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm usually a poet. That's how most people know me, but in recent years I've dipped my toes into the witchy universe, including my first book on magic, Make Your Own Magic.
So let's talk about that transition because, as you said, you did actually. Most people do actually know you from your poetry. When did you decide that tarot was going to be something that you wanted to, cross on over into?
It's funny because it's actually connected to poetry in a way. When I was putting out the last book of my first poetry series, Women Are Some Kind of Magic, I was talking with my publisher about maybe doing like a pre-order incentive, and I suggested doing maybe like a special pack of tarot cards, like maybe like the princess, the witch, and the mermaid, something like that. And they were the ones who actually suggested, why don't you do a tarot deck instead? And that actually turned into an oracle deck, Believe in Your Own Magic. I didn't feel quite ready to do a tarot deck, even though I loved it. It just felt like a lot to take on, especially if it was going to be based on my poetry series, which is really, really personal to me. And I kind of wanted to have the freedom with Oracle to like create my own meanings, my own world connected to that poetry series. And then after I did the Oracle deck, I actually took a course that you taught about creating tarot decks. And I started to finally feel ready to do it. And that is what led me to Cozy Witch Tarot. And then it all sort of spiraled from there, and I wrote my first witchcraft book. And tomorrow, actually, my first witchcraft journal, Your Magical Journal, will be out.
Oh, that's fantastic. So for those watching this, that would be June 11th. June 11th, that book comes out. So by the time this hits, it will already be out. So we will make sure that there is a link to the show notes in here for that book. First off, thank you for doing one of my courses. I'm so excited that helped inspire you to get your deck together. But that is so true. Like I think tarot is deeply connected to poetry. I think it's deeply connected to world building. I feel so many literary aspects when it comes to putting a deck together. So I'd love for you to talk just a little bit more about how you took the world building aspect, like creating the world of your poems. And if you don't have one of Amanda's poetry books, one, you need to go get it because it's almost, your poetry books are like fairy tales. Like they are their own fairy tales and their own stories. Another one I've got that you sent me, I've read a couple of times, but it really is this immersive experience into a tale. It's a journey. So can you talk a little bit about how some of the similarities between creating the deck and, when you sit down and create a world for your poetry stories to take place?
Yeah, so especially with Cozy Witch Tarot, it was almost the same in a weird way. Most of my poetry collections are, I would say, like sort of like coming of age kind of tales, because they usually start at this point of either the narrator, the speaker is young, whether that's me or like someone that I made up, and they go on this long journey like they do in the major arcana of like all the trials, the tribulations. And I'm someone who, I kind of made an agreement with myself when I first started writing poetry collections where there would always be some sort of happy ending, just because, we have enough hopelessness in the world. And I kind of feel like the major arcana is kind of that way too. We end with the world, and it's like this big celebratory moment.
Right.
And that kind of is the journey for all of my poetry collections too.
Exactly. All right, so I think that's a good segue into our card for the week. So Amanda, do you want to introduce our card of the week, because we kind of just picked this on the fly?
Yeah, so our card of the week is the Two of Cups, which is one of my favorite cards. It always reminds me of me and my wife, more so than the Lovers. It's this sort of like, to me, it is more so the soulmate card than anything else. It's about this like deep knowing, soul connection, soul understanding. And it's a card that like whenever I pull it, it just like, it gives me like a warm feeling.
So the card that I pulled here was the one that I did for the Mermaid Tarot, which does have this very fairy tale element to it. And I think it's actually the only Two of Cups card I have designed where I've actually hit on those things that you've talked about, because generally I don't think about the Two of Cups that way. So I'm kind of curious, what is it about the Two of Cups that really brings out that romantic notion for you?
So for me, it's because, well, first of all, I have like two major water signs in me. So I feel like very connected to that element, and, you know, cups is water. And it's just like, it's two people being on the same wavelength emotionally. In the card, usually there's like two people gazing into each other's eyes, and it feels like more than like a material connection like it would be for like a Pentacles card. It's just like, it's just so soul-based, intuition-based. It's like people who finish each other's sentences, people who, like with me and my wife, we sometimes have this thing going where we'll either randomly say what the other one is thinking without even saying it, or we'll finish each other's sentences without having any clue where it's going, like rationally. And that's just like what that card gives me in terms of like its energy.
Yeah, I do think it has the two hearts thing going. So to me, the cups are always heart-based energy, and it doesn't matter which cups we pick up. I do find the Suit of Cups to be the suit that deals with heart issues. So we do have this heart-to-heart connection going on here. But as I said, apart from the Mermaid Tarot, usually I present this as a platonic card, as a way of building heart-based relationships that don't have a romantic element to it. So it's more of a, how do we connect with other human beings on a heart-to-heart level? How do we walk through the world and find other heartbeat people who share similar heart stories or heart connections that we do? And I guess for me, that's where the poetry part comes into it. I was thinking, like, how can we find something that's a little bit more poetry based? But because to me, that's like what poetry is, right? It's an expression of heart energy. It's about you putting onto the page something that's in your heart, and then someone else picks it up, and then it will either speak to their heart and become part of their heartbeat, or it won't.
Yeah, and that sort of reminds me of the energy, I mean, kind of all of my poetry collections, but especially my first poetry collection, The Princess Saves Herself in this one, because while it is my story, I left a lot of room, especially towards the end, to sort of like directly talk to the reader and sort of have that connection like through the page. I never really looked at the Two of Cups like that, but that definitely fits for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we forget too, the minor arcana cards are our day-to-day cards. So we have our big issue concepts in the major arcana, and they kind of tell us all these big life themes. It is the Fool's Journey. It's like the archetypes that we experience throughout a journey. But the minor arcana cards are like the daily cards. They're like the cards that we do every day, from the moment we put our feet on the floor in the morning till we pick them up in the evening. And I think if we were thinking about the Two of Cups in this respect, if we were going to like pick this card up and go, okay, so this is my card of the day, how would you read it as like the card of the day? Like, this is my card of the day, and I have to kind of get into the flow of this card.
Yeah, I would see that either as like maybe me and my wife have like a special connection kind of moment, or it's more like of a platonic soulmate sort of thing, or even if you come across a stranger and it's like you're connected by something and you like have that heart connection where it's just like you understand each other, you are like picking up what they're putting down, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about this card. If it comes up in a daily draw and you've got the Two of Cups card, it could also be about like go to the places that fill your heart. So who are the people in your day to day that go and fill your heart? Like maybe it's your favorite cafe. Like food is my love language, so I don't care what anyone says. So, like to me, the Two of Cups could be me and a very buttery croissant. Like I am totally down with that. But it could be this thing of how do I get into this place of feeling a love connection with all the things that I am doing today? If the cups is not necessarily another person, but it's an energetic vortex to which then I am aligning. How could that energy move me, and how could I be guided by it to connect here and move here and maybe open a door here and see a possibility there that I didn't see before because maybe I wasn't in the heart space. So that to me is a little bit how I like to see this card too.
Yeah, it's a very like positive, hopeful card.
It definitely is until you turn it on its head. And I would say that the reverse aspect of this, I often think of the Two of Cups in the reverse aspect when I get writer's block, because I'm like, oh my God, even my muse has deserted me today. But I can see like, these two cups just going kaplonk. Nope, nothing's flowing today. You're out
Completely
of luck.
empty.
We're not filling your heart with anything. But yes, there is a hopeful energy. Do you want to talk about that a little more, about the hope that this card often gives people too when they pull it?
Yeah, like the two overflowing, like I see them as overflowing cups of hope, inspiration, intuition. It's just like when everything feels right. Like you walk outside your door and it's just like the sun is somehow shining even brighter, the ocean is sparkling more. It's just everything is in line. Again, it's like for me, especially as a creative, I would be filled with writing inspiration. It's just like the ultimate for me. And I know it's a minor arcana card, but it's like just one of those cards that I'm always happy to see, and I know something good is going to happen.
I'm glad that you said that, because I do think there are some cards in the deck that we go, when that one shows up, good things are going to happen. When this one shows up, I'm just going to crawl back into bed.
Yeah, for me, that is the Five of Wands. It's like never, I know it's like usually a card about maybe possibly arguing with other people, there's tension. But when I get the Five of Wands, I mean, that would be bad too. But it's usually like an internal conflict, like racing worries or anger, irritability. And I'm like, oh, it is not going to be a good day if I get this card.
All right, Amanda, tell our listeners, how do they connect with you? I mean, apart from the book dropping, everyone go get the new book. What else is going on in your world, and how do people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me first on amandalovelace.com. I am also at Lady Bookmad on most places. You can find me there. And yeah, my next release is tomorrow, Your Magical Journal. And I'm really excited about it, and I hope you'll all pick it up.
So June 11th, the book dropped June 11th. That was the date. We will have a link to Amanda's website in the show notes. Can they find the book there, or not?
Yeah, they can find it
on your website. They can find the book there. Absolutely, because I like to direct our listeners to the most credible buying link, because of all the piracy that we have to deal with these days. I like to make sure that we have the most credible link. So on your website, for sure.
Yep.
Excellent. All right, dear. Thank you so much for being with us this week. It was such a pleasure to see you and talk to you. And do you have your deck there that you could show them the cover of your deck?
Yes. Here is
and again,
Cozy Witch Tarot deck.
That is such a beautiful deck. I love that deck.
Thank you.
And again, go to Amanda's website for a credible link for that deck and for her books. And the links on Amanda's website will then take you to where you can buy it, and you can make sure that you are getting an authentic copy, not a pirated or counterfeit copy. This is something we really do have to stop in our industry. It is costing creatives money. It is costing publishing houses money. And it means that a lot of your favorite authors and deck creators are not going to be able to keep doing what they're doing because there will be no incentive for them to do it. So please make sure you always check the links in the show notes to all the creators and authors that I have on, because they are the most credible links. Thank you, darling Amanda. Keep us up to date with all of your amazing work. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. I will be back again next week with another fantastic tarot creator. And I think it might be our first male guest for the show. I'm pretty excited to have Thomas on. All right, everyone. That's it for this week. See you next week. Bye for now.